Good evening, everyone. So welcome to our March meeting of the Houston Electric Vehicle Association. For folks in the room, we've got a sign-in sheet going around. For folks online, welcome. You can put any kinds of questions you got into the chat or just interrupt us. We're going to talk about a number of different things here this evening. But first thing, of course, is to wish everyone Happy Pi Day. 314. Yeah. You had 2 pies already. Good, good. Yeah. I'll have to look at the frequency. How often, since we have our meetings on the second Thursday of every month, how often does March 14th fall on the second Thursday? You know, it may be quite a few years before we get to wish everyone in this club Happy Pi Day again. So we were planning on having some folks from Eli on, the electric bus people, but due to illness and family matters, they aren't able to join us today. But hopefully they will be joining us at our April event, which I also want to mention, which is Saturday, the 20th of April. And we will be having on Discovery Green and at IKEA events. So
And they'll be at
and there's a slide on that.
they'll be at the April 6th event. Yeah, we got a slide on.
And the April 6th, which is the actual bus event for Houston, right?
Bayou City Electric Bus Festival.
Bayou City Electric Bus Festival. Okay.
That's coming up.
All right. Good. So so we're kind of switching from our planned speaker to talking about a number of different things. We're going to be talking with our member Keith Howard about racing. We're going to be talking with Bill Swann of what he's discovering inside of batteries of electric cars, and talk to John Atwood a little bit about projects he's working on, and all kinds of other good things here this evening. So this actually gives you the information, the time on April 6th for that Bayou City Electric School Bus Festival. And so folks that are interested in come out to that.
And it's also on our Facebook page and in our calendar, and you can sign up over here too with a sign-in sheet.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, for folks in the room, there's a sign-in sheet here. So, okay.
They're looking for people to show their cars and to evangelize.
So it'll be beyond just buses then at that event.
Quite a bit more.
Oh, good, good. Okay.
And food. Yeah. So yeah, there could be.
Okay.
They're looking to add a bunch of stuff.
All right. So more than just buses. All right.
Yeah.
Because I knew from the name that it was bus centered, but okay.
Well, you bring your kid and decorate the bus, and then it goes in the art car parade the next week.
Oh, that's a good combination. I like that with the art car parade. Okay. So here are the particulars for our April 20th 2 events. So thanks to Karen and Darmy. Karen will be the captain for our Discovery Green event. And folks that may know from previous years, that's great. We get to park on the sidewalk or somewhere. And then during the day of that big event, there'll be lots of other booths out there at Discovery Green. And we will have all of you who would like to volunteer to bring your car and park out there and then talk to the public. So of the 2 events, I'm thinking that I will be at that one. Our second event, Robert Sanchez, our vice president, will captain. That's over at IKEA. And we've been over at that location where they have a great concrete apron up by the front door. So from 11 to 1. And so you can choose either one of those. It'd be great to see folks out and about for those. So some folks may have heard that there's kind of pushback to the development of electric cars, and that's not surprising. There's a lot of people that earn their paycheck from the good old cars that we've all been used to for decades. And one of the things that's kind of riled up some folks is that there are some folks tied to dealers who have pushed out information that doesn't seem exactly truthful. So they're claiming that dealerships are hearing from customers that they don't want electric cars. And then some research into talking to some of these dealerships, they go, huh? We didn't even know we were on this list of dealerships that are making that claim. And so it might have to do with corporate decisions, because a lot of dealerships nowadays are owned by big corporate entities. Used to be dealerships were a lot more private individuals. So what the Big Electric Vehicle Association is doing, for North America is pushing back on that. And so if you'd like to go ahead and get involved with that pushback, they're asking from the myeva.org to sign the petition so that people get the truth. I mean, we all want the truth. We don't want anybody to be unhappy. Nobody should be forced to get an EV, but they certainly meet a whole lot of people's requirements. And people are discovering, of course, they're much easier on maintenance and things like that. And so we like honest information to get out to everybody. So, and of course, joining the EVA is good. So our Houston chapter has no dues, but if you'd like to join the big organization, that's great. And you get to tie into information there. And they also have other benefits, such as being able to borrow money at favorable interest rates if you need that for buying an EV. There's a company called Recurrent EV, and they allow you to read out data on the battery status of your EV, which is interesting. There's the Blue Dot EV charging card, NeoCharge, which is a splitter. You can get a discount on that. Some people find that that's a convenient way to have their power set up at home for charging. And I didn't notice, did Robert with his Wind Everest log in? Is he in the list of participants?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. We may or may not have him talking tonight. Oh, Robert. Okay. I didn't even recognize you. Sorry. Okay. All right. Because, yeah, I definitely want to hear from you here this evening. And that's right. Now that I think about it, you did mention that you're going to come in person because I was looking at the Zoom list. Perfect. All right. Yes, because what I'm getting at is that because the splitter reminded me already of when you charge is of utmost importance. And so that's what you're going to be talking about. So that'll be great. Yes, we'll have you here this evening as well. And of course, our local chapter gets a portion of what is collected if you join the national organization. So we encourage that. And then back there at the table there next to Robert, there's some one-sheet handouts. And we will also be giving those out at the April 20th events. So those are very good bits of information for the general public of just how many EVs are out there nowadays. So I joined this organization back in 1994, and I had my first EV in 1995 when we had lead acid batteries. And a lot of people are, at that time, everyone was doing what John Atwood is doing now, making conventional gasoline vehicles, including lawnmowers, into electric vehicles. And so nowadays, of course, people have a choice of buying vehicles that have been made to be electric. And this sheet gives out a lot of that information, which is good. And this brings us to Keith. So Keith is a longtime member of our Houston chapter, and he goes traveling around the country. And I think you're in Maryland right now, Keith. Is that true?
Yes, I'm in Maryland, and actually, as bad as it is, I'm going to relocate to Maryland. And people ask me, why would you ever do that? Okay, I don't mind that we have 4 million extra people in Texas. I can put a gun on my side and take care of myself, and everybody wants to work hard. But I don't have a damn drag strip within 150 miles of my house. Okay. In Maryland, I have one 5 miles from my house, and I have 3 in all sanctioning bodies. So if I want to be efficient and go race, it makes more sense. And since our lovely government, to speak of that, I think I bought a Mustang Mach-E Select version, $40,000 MSR, $40,000 for the car, 60 months, 19%, nothing down. So for that, it's a 230-mile range car. I didn't want to carry the weight. I want the lightest car I can have, metal roof to make it easy. So, and the only problem I have is our lovely government that just likes to change rules after the fact. We can't seem to do that on our own. But a $7,500 tax credit turned out to be $3,750. But I kind of got the rumor. I got the rumor that for this year, guess what? It's none. So I guess $3,750 is better than zero, right? When you don't, you have to make a bet.
Yeah, as you say, they keep on changing those rules. So before you get to your slides, if you'd like to tip your camera down a little bit, we can see your hat, but there you are.
Don't mind me. I've been struggling with. I've learned my mom wanted me to take antidepressants because of anxiety because I act too crazy, and that was a mistake because my body reacts where I can't sleep. So And
All
I can
right.
tell anybody to do, I'll give you the rapid detox program and just to go cold turkey. It's 5 days and 3 hours sleep. So I've learned how to do that. Anyway, I'll get that good thing. I'm actually now, I've been involved with HEAA since whenever. I actually met Bill Swann. We can thank him for doing that at Coffee and Cars in McCormick Center when I parked my Shelby GT 500 next to his purple, then I guess it was S10 pickup truck, and we talked to each other, and we're both mechanical guys, and it's pretty cool. And it's kind of from where it led to there. I met John Metric, got involved with helping John to do that on running his crew and being his crew chief and building 3 cars, setting a bunch of records. One, I just found a piece of paper. On May 14th, we ran 10 years ago, we ran 167 miles an hour in a standing half mile in Ellington. We're just too early, you know. So speak of that, so we may do something cool around there. But all that being said, I am now you got to be careful when you wish for something. I'm the president of NEDRA, now the National Electric Drag Racing Association. It's kind of interesting when they nominate you and nobody else wants to run. Okay. And the standard answer wasn't they didn't want to run. He said we wanted him to run, and if he's running, that's who I'm going to vote for. So why do I want anybody else? Maybe where we are right now, that looks like who knows what November looks like, right?
Right.
So I've decided.
Did you have some slides as well?
What's that?
Some slides to talk to today?
Yeah, I'll get to the end to show you. I'm a little behind, but I'll give you a thing. Anyway, there's a lot going to happen within NEDRA. The whole dynamic is changing where we're going to spin it probably into a for-profit corporation, not do it the NHRA. You can't operate a business viably as a not-for-profit business. You can't sell it. You can't do anything. And that just happened with all the driving in the NHRA. The drivers formed their own for-profit group because they're tired. My best analogy is this. It seems to hold true. I'm Taylor Swift. Okay. You give me a free concert venue. I have to pay to set up and do everything. You get to keep everything. And all I can do is sell t-shirts. Would you do that if you were a person from a business standpoint? Hell no. But that's the world in racing of how it works, guys. You know, you're a free, they let you in for free and you're the entertainer and they keep all the money. Doesn't make sense. So that's going to change now. And we're going to go into that. There'll be a bunch of cool things. I will throw a teaser out on one, keep 720 free on your calendar. You'll get to see some really cool history. I'll give you a tease on that. A lot's going to happen now that happened with the first race at NHRA in Gainesville was huge. That a lot's going to happen. I could talk for hours, and in the end, we'll do that. What I really wanted to talk about is with myself relocating from Texas to Maryland. I've got a really sweetheart deal in a warehouse I have. You never know what's in a warehouse behind the fence, right? You know. I've got 2,800 square foot with about the same outside of that with a bunch of cars stuffed in there that nobody ever knew about. That's actually where Panic in Detroit, not the Assault and Battery Miata sits, which we're gonna put back together as a test mule. It'll be the last of the dinosaurs, if anybody knows, because obviously Zilla controllers are dead now. So they're not going to make them anymore. They won't support them. They won't service them. Okay.
Oh, that's a well-known name. I hadn't heard that they had stopped making them. Okay.
Yeah, they won't make them. They won't service them. You break it, you're done. So this will be the last car that runs with a brushed motor to do it. I'm actually going to use it as a test profile. I need to do that because I'm going to do a parallel test program for what Don Garlitz is working on his next thing. And you can tie that into 720 as I give you another teaser and you can start to figure things out. Especially if you work for NASA, right? And then I'll throw 720 and 55 years and some cool things, and you can start to understand where I'm coming from, right? On that. Anyway, I need to run a parallel test program here, and that'll let us do some things with the Miata as a testing in Houston. That car sits in that warehouse. My dilemma is kind of this: I got the lease to the end of the year. I have a 30-day out if he sells the property. I need help. I've offered people to give them free space to work out of it. Nobody wants to seem to take me up on my offer to do some things. So maybe we have one of our meetings.
So you're letting folks at this meeting know that there's space available to work on.
There's space available if you want to come work on cars and do things, and I need some help being involved. If you want to bring Assault and Battery back to life with what we're doing and see some cool stuff. That's going to happen for that, and I need to do that pretty quick on that. The other one is I have a, what the heck is that freaking an WeGo? I have one of the original WeGos that I came up with. Okay, that we can learn and go. That's a running. It's a clean car. It has a bad charger and some stuff. We have lead acid batteries in it right now to test. I have enough cells to build a high power lithium thing to play with. Yeah, if somebody wants to buy it, they can talk about it. If we all want to learn how to fix it together, like Bill Swann, except we got to keep high voltage away from Bill. You got those lithium batteries have a lot of power behind them.
Right. But I'm thinking especially students. So I'm not sure.
I'll show you some pictures. I don't know if I can share my screen. I tried to combine it through this new Adobe program and it didn't work so well.
Share.
I think I can share if I can share my screen through Zoom, and I don't have it. My brain's a little tired, so let me see if I can
down at the bottom, the green button.
Share screen.
Yeah. So what I was going to say about students. So any friends of students, you then talking to Keith is the person to talk to, because he's got a spot where you can get some hands-on experience.
Yep.
And we've had a professor here who I know's got a number of students in a past meeting. So if he gets a chance to see this recording, through the organization here, contact you and get some hands-on for some of those.
Yeah, did you see a picture here on the screen now with a car for sale in front of it?
Yep.
I had to chase all the drug dealers and whores and everything else out of the place that were sleeping in there. So I built myself a rolling gate to keep everybody out, so nobody knows what's behind it. And that's actually my mom. That's my mom's Hyundai Santa Fe that I bought her. I just gave her my 2022 Escape plug-in hybrid to drive because it's a lot safer for her to do that. So if you want a single owner Hyundai Santa Fe with 105,000 miles with all the maintenance from an old lady that owned it and a good car, it's got all the maintenance records, just for sale. So little teaser out there. Where is, I guess I can't go to another picture through here. Let's see. I got to go to do it through here. It won't give me an option to go to the next picture. That's the outside getting in. We'll have to do it though. We'll do it old school, right? Bear with me. Let's see. Did that work? See that? Does it look like an inside? That's the inside. You can see how I built it, and we engineered it to do that. So it's all set up at how it could have a gate and do everything. I could put an opener on and give people codes to get in to do that. I have one problem. My other guy next to there is I'll call him a hoarder of buying stuff, and he's really good at trying to take over the space. As you can start to see a little bit to the right there. Yeah, he's really good. He's really good at making my life miserable. But that's good because I told the guy that owns the property, I have the check sitting there, but now it's not a point of money. It's about a point of principle. I am not going to give him that check until it's not sharing. This kind of gives you a feel quick. This is the inside front office that you can see. It's got an area we can make an office when you walk in. There's an area that's there. Now I can see something here. Let's see if this works. You can see this is from above. So you never know what's hidden in a garage when you're a car guy, right?
Oh yeah, the whole front end is missing on that car.
Oh, that's the front off of it. That's how you would work on it anyway. That's what a race. There isn't much when you peel off the skin, okay? To do that. So that's a salt and battery in the back and in the WeGo, and you really get a sense of scale. This thing actually has a second floor on it, which has a shower and a room and an office, which you could actually, a mezzanine that you can shoot over if you're shooting video. I mean, you can't buy this for $900 a month. And I hate to walk. My biggest thing, you can see a WeGo uncovered in the back. That's the inside. It's a roll up door. It's secure. Give you an idea. That's kind of from front view there. That's how that's shoved in the corner.
What years were they making the WeGo? Do you happen to know?
I think it's a 2010. They retailed for $33,000 and went 20 miles an hour. My goal, what I want to do with the car, just to show people, is pull out. Once I make it sure with the lead acid, is I've got all the cells. Somebody can, I'll teach you can build a lithium battery pack and put it together like an erector set. Because what I want to do is use the WeGo as my tow vehicle because it has air conditioning and heat and stereo. And in Texas, that's important, right? You know. All the guys in the street, and it's small, so you can put both cars in the same trailer. Being an electrical guy that I am, having to fix to make power work to go through it after the guy left there, and the fact that I didn't feel like hooking up service and doing that, by my tenant behind me, we tied in the breaker together so I can run my shop off of his electricity.
Yeah.
Oh, old federal, and it's old Federal Pacific firebox stuff. So on there, you
And
can see
you
that's
remind
kind
us what side of Houston this is on?
this is on the northwest side of Houston. I'll give you the I think it's 13568 Old Hempstead. If you're familiar where Eats Mesquite Grill and Gomer is, the exit that you would take would be Fairbanks, North Houston, off of 290 going west to Hempstead,
Okay.
and that's about a half a mile up. It's convenient. There's good places to eat. The cops aren't too far from there, but we've had zero issues because nobody knows. Once you put up a wall, no, and nobody can get in, you know, and then we made sure if you want to crash through that thing with a car, I think the gate will win. I've learned that it actually has stairs, and it has the stairs to go up to the top, and there's a whole area there. I'm going to move in April and May and do that. If we get guys that want to work with us and work out of that where it's there, I do not want to leave my a couple of other cars in there and do some things if it is unattended and nobody's looking at it. So if we all want to use it involved, you got a space where we can use it as training and do it. And I've got it to the end of the year. Okay. But the clause is if he sells the building when he gets through probate with his uncle's estate, it could go away. This is a property across the way that's for sale. So there's interest. He's been offered, I think, just for the dirt, about $3 million for the old buildings. The neat thing, if you're an old school gearhead guy, I don't know how many guys out there. He wasn't there. John Harrelson, a guy that used to build pro stocks back in the 70s, his rate and all the cool cars that were built in Houston back in the day. There's 4 buildings in that complex. He's in the 4th one. And he's about, he's struggling, but it's right next to there. That's another one that's for sale. The guy across the street that's selling his, because it's real estate in Houston is crazy. So, but anyway, I'll get some more interest. You got Dave's can share my information. I'll give you an address so you can actually Google Earth it, look at it. It's really nice because on the other side, it's warehouse rack is right next to it. It used to be the old drill equip facility for people that are familiar before they moved out off of 6 and got big. I'll pay. I will pay the rent on that. It will not cost anybody anything to do that. I only pay $900 a month, which isn't a lot. But what I need is people that want to get involved and do things. What I want is your help, and I'll teach you. And then if you want to work on something that's getting used, and if we want to make it a little fancier with an air conditioning upstairs, so it's not as hot. But it's the only thing we need right now is some lighting. My ex-tenant that I was involved with when he left decided he was going to take the lights. Those were kind of his, but the sucker stole my hot water heater. I gave him hot water heater so he could use it in the shower, and he stole my hot water heater. But anyway, we can do a lot of cool things in here. There's going to be a lot of race things going on with the car. There's a fab shop around there. If you really want to get exposed to and see how a race car works, gets built, and how you design things on the simple side of that, and be part of history. If you get involved, I've always worked people. Respect is earned and rewarded. Okay. So if you do certain things and get involved with the sweat equity and you're involved and you're really interested, there's things that you'll earn that nobody else, you can't buy into what you might get as a teaser. Okay. Yeah. You'll get to do some really cool things. And it won't cost you a cent, other than if you want to get on a plane, I'm not paying for your plane ticket. You show up when I tell you to be somewhere, and you'll get to see some back end of history being made on that. And I've got between now and 7/20 to be done. I've got to run parallel test programs and a lot to do that. So I got a lot of people doing a lot of things on that. So we're going to do something really, really cool. And I think we can make it. I got a right plan to do it as I like another guy. What's it? I'm going to forget the thing. I don't want to, I won't throw another teaser out there. I'm going to forget the name of, shoot. Anyway, I'll look it up, and when we chime back in at the end, give me 5 minutes and I'll give you another clue to the puzzle. Okay?
Yeah, we'll bring you in at the end of the meeting here before we wrap.
Yeah, we'll bring us in at the end if you have time left, and then we can do questions and a Q&A, and I'll have some more answers. I'm going to grab something to eat real quick. Okay. Another cup of coffee so I can function, and I'm just glad to clear this out and mute. If you lose me, I may just get myself out and mute through the screen here. I've got too many. Lack of sleep is a wonderful thing. Yeah. But I'll be back. All right.
All righty. Thanks so much, Keith. And we'll move on to Bill, and we'll be able to take the camera, I believe, and show the display on your unit here. So we go.
So first off, let me say that yesterday I took a trip down to south of Bay City, Texas. There's a wind farm down there, 51 3-megawatt huge turbines. You've been there? Yeah. And I'm going to organize a tour of that. And I've gotten permission from the manager of the O&M facility. I'm excited about that. And then,
So we need Keith to stop sharing.
So
okay.
Keith, if you're still there, can you stop sharing, or
probably.
can I do that?
I can't see a way to do it. Where's Emma?
What took you down there?
I wanted to take pictures of my car next to the wind turbine, so I kind of just drove on up there before anybody noticed.
Ah, I got it.
Or down.
Okay. Yeah, that's like, Good.
Now I got it on my Facebook.
Sure.
okay, so we're live on this.
I said, better just go in there and not ask permission, but ask forgiveness.
Oh, yeah. No, they were.
You're gonna be the
They won't let
cameraman?
you get near a windmill. I don't think. So
Okay.
actually, Keith mentioned S10. I bought several S10s several years ago, maybe
Okay, so we're-
15 years ago.
We're on this camera.
And let me actually, can you focus that on this?
Let's see.
Will that work? You gotta hold it really good.
It's gonna put that in front of his mouth.
Well, okay, that's a picture of an S10 with a bed on the top left, tilted up, and what happened?
Phone screen just dimmed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to make out, but there's two 16 horsepower, 3-phase motor. They turn the, let me focus this thing a bit better. I don't know which way to move it. They turn the rear axle around to where the drive shaft points backwards, and those two motors are belted together to drive the drive shaft. And when the motors are going 7,000 RPM, the truck's going 70. That's another job. This is a picture of, no, that's the same picture. Let me go. That's a big machine I'm working on. So having moved the drive shaft backwards, it freed up a bunch of area to put a battery pack, and that's where the battery pack would be. Unfortunately, a limb fell on my truck and did some damage. So, but Kevin Douglas has persuaded me to try to resurrect this truck. And we're going to build a large battery pack. There's enough room to do 60 cells in the back of the truck. And that's probably give me a 60, 70 mile range.
Good.
In the meantime, I've purchased a leaf that's outside by my solar container. And this is what a leaf cell looks like. And I had decided to do a capacity test on some of these cells, but John has suggested maybe that's not a good idea because they won't be in balance when I make a pack of 30. This is a 7-volt cell, 2S2P, and this object right here is something that will load and will charge the battery and discharge the battery. It'll take up to 6 cells in series. I have it set for 2S right now, and I won't, I can't hold everything, and maybe if you can hold that, Dave. It charges at 5 amps, and there's 47, it takes 2 days to charge and much longer to discharge because it discharges at 1 amp. And I may build an Arduino-based system to charge and discharge, but I may also be persuaded not to estimate the capacity of all the cells. I would have 60 to do, and that would take some time. It's a big project. I've got to do a BMS There's multiple sources of BMSs out there. I've forgotten some of the names. There's an Australian BMS, there's Orion BMS, and we're working with an electrical engineer. Maybe they'll decide to help with the BMS.
Good, the battery management systems are available from that many different companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And anyway, if there's any questions, well, first off, let me add to the proposed solar tour. Let me know, and when I get permission to go. Oh, I didn't mention the other half of the tour, which is I think it's a 600 megawatt solar farm in Dane Vang area. And they have a battery pack there that's the size of a football field.
Whoa. We
And
know that the industry keeps on adding battery capacity to the grid. But that
Absolutely,
is
absolutely.
amazing.
I
It's a football
So
field.
when I get that, if I hopefully Rosenton Foundation will okay a tour.
A tour, yeah.
They've done one before. Now I know Jim and I and some friends took a tour of solar farms, found one that was broken out
Okay.
toward Rosenberg, and it.
So, yeah,
you
tour
know,
like that would be.
I drove out there. I saw one solar farm, then I saw another solar farm, then I saw the battery, the wind farm, and then I went over to the solar farm. And on the way back, so there's 50 wind turbines at this wind farm we visited. On the way back on 59, I passed another wind farm, 150 towers.
Oh,
You know,
growing
it's just
huge
crazy.
numbers.
Yeah. And the one on 59 was just being commissioned, so hardly any of the windmills were going around. But anyway, that's my presentation.
Okay, so this silver box is one of the batteries out of the Leaf. So how many are in a Leaf? How many?
48 come in a Leaf, and I
48 of those.
I
Okay.
purchased a wreck Leaf, and just today I made it to where I can take the lid off and
Lid.
see the battery pack.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't take a photograph.
Mm.
It looks like an operating room. It's so clean.
It is clean inside.
it is
Okay,
clean.
good.
And again, this is 2S2P. There's 3 connections
Mhm.
to access the, since it's 2 batteries in series, you want to access the voltage in
Mhm.
between, midway voltage.
Midway of the series.
Right.
Okay, right.
And anyway,
Great, great. So
Yeah.
are you doing this work at your house or at your container in the back here?
out of
The
container,
container,
yeah.
yeah, because for those that don't know, Bill's got solar panels on a shipping container in the back and he's got
Right.
it set up for charging EVs.
Right.
So you can literally drive on sunshine.
And if anybody wants the key to the container to charge their EV, talk to me and I'll give
Okay,
you that.
okay,
So
yeah.
anyway, that's my story.
All right.
And again, tell Dave or someone if you want to be included when we have this solar wind farm tour.
Right.
And
Okay.
keep an eye on Facebook, because you'll put it on Facebook.
I will.
Yeah, and on the clubs also.
On our page.
Yeah, I know Facebook's evil, I know.
No, it's a useful tool. I mean, all these different tools have different purposes and such. So thanks so much, Bill. That's great.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bill, I shout out a question. What is 2S2P?
2 series, 2 parallel.
Awesome. Okay.
Right. That makes sense?
Yep. Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. So I don't want to forget different things that we've wanted to cover tonight. But I wanted to get to Robert here. So you got some photos or
I know you saw
Okay.
one was got your first band PowerPoint.
okay.
PDF. And only the first 10 of the slides that we're looking at.
So they went in by email?
Yeah, hopefully I use my iPhone to kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and I also emailed you some pictures.
Upload.
I don't know if you actually got it.
Actually,
Yeah.
pull up them.
I
Okay.
have a hard time seeing
Hopefully it
email
works.
at this point. Everything's dominated by Zoom.
Yeah.
And then when I go looking, you'll see
If it
all my
didn't work, I
email.
could use the old slides.
Sorry?
Not too obsolete.
When I go looking for, it, you get to see all my email up there.
Right.
You don't want to see that.
I was sending it to Dave. I just replied to that.
Dave is in charge of the, whatever, people want to show. He's in charge.
We should, it might take a minute to pull out from the correct email here, but we should be able to get things called up here, yeah. Okay. So how far back was yours, Robert?
It was just.
It's like just before I,
It's like
I sat
5
down,
o'clock.
so about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did see it.
You saw it? Okay.
Yeah.
Not sure which folder it went into.
Oh, I do see it on my phone.
No, it didn't go over there. I didn't think it did. But
Send it to you also.
okay. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Because I've got Jim's pulled up here and John's pulled up. So yeah, if we can get Robert's.
Did you actually you saw photos from me?
I saw the email. Yep.
I haven't seen yours yet.
I think the photos didn't upload.
Well, these are the ones from John, but first we want to get Robert's up here. This, I'm seeing it on my screen. It's not going up on the room screen.
You gotta share it.
Yeah. But I want to get Roberts up here first.
To get that presentation.
I don't see it offhand. I just see
Not
John's at the moment. Yeah. I looked at that too. I didn't see it over there. So if you can call it up on yours and do a share, Colin.
Let me just make sure nothing happened as a mishap like around.
Mhm.
I think Robert's trying to do it. You gotta admit, Robert.
The other Robert?
Says he's trying to do it.
Yes, I see that now. Thank you. It was covered up by another window.
There's Chris. 9. Here we go.
Okay, very good. Wind Everest. Yes. Very nice. Okay. Let me hand you the mic.
All right.
Now, it's there, but it's not here. It's not proud yet.
Well, let's see if I can do.
No.
I like how it says rescue. That's a great word choice.
No, it needs to be shared and only I can do it. And this is where I have a problem.
This way, and both Robert and the screen behind him. That should be going out. Got 2, Robert.
I always wanted to clone myself.
Actually 3.
Hey, progress. I'm scaling.
Oh, there we go.
And people can see it in the Zoom call. All right. So I'm Robert Rolnik. I'm founder to Wind Everest, where we encourage EV drivers to rescue unused wind energy. Can you go to the next slide? So how long would you put up with a sink overflowing like this? An hour, 2 hours, 20 hours, maybe 10 minutes? Well, in Texas, we have wind energy that is literally overflowing, something like 500 hours, a couple hours every other day. And it usually shows up in the middle of the night. No one knows about it. And so I'm hoping to give people a little bit of an idea. Next slide, please. If you time your charge, you may end up with a lot of natural gas and coal, or alternatively, wind energy. If everybody gets home and charges immediately when they get home, especially in the summer, that's when the grid is at its most brittle, and there's all kinds of ovens that are being turned on as they get dinner started, and of course air conditioners. So that would be representing the left side of the slide. However, if you wait until the middle of the night, where winds tend to run about 44% stronger than in the middle of the day, and therefore more megawatts, you'll be getting a lot more wind in your battery. Next slide. So Wind Everest can solve that. by simply giving you a weather report, just like you get a weather report that helps you figure out whether to bring an umbrella. This helps you figure out which of the nights in the week ahead are going to be best for putting wind energy in your battery. Letter grades of A, just like in school, are awesome, or air nights. You're going to get mostly wind turbines revive that were otherwise be idled. And letter grades of D or F are don't nights or fuel nights. And if you're inclined to reduce the amount of carbon that goes into our atmosphere, stay away from the fuel nights. Next slide. So the solution, I've got a few different versions of this. One that's been working pretty well on the web, and another one that's just about ready for beta release on the iPhone. You can see over here, this is on the right, that's a Tesla browser. So you can actually open it up in the browser. And just before you park your car, or right after you park your car, before you unload your groceries, take a quick glance at this. 5 seconds later, you know, is this an umbrella night? Well, no, no, this is wind. You're trying to figure out if there's wind. So if it's Thursday and it's an A night, and it is an A night tonight, it would be a good night to charge. You would set your schedule function in your car. Teslas have that. I think the GMs, the Fords do. Schedule it for a specific hour. I usually recommend about 1 o'clock. That's when demand is super low. And when the winds peak, as they often do in the early hours, you'll find that there's a few wind turbines that have no place to send their electricity. Even that big battery that you were talking about, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that big battery that's in a football field, it's only 80% efficient at returning electricity back to the grid. I estimate that the carbon is about 5 times as much taking power out of a battery like that. So going straight to the source, the wind turbines, that's the best way to go. Next slide, please.
It's also true that things like nuclear power and such has to keep on running. So
You can't get those guys to turn out. It takes like a day for them to ramp down.
Right,
So
and I'm just giving that as people are saying, well, why not get 100% wind? Well, these other power sources like nuclear can't.
they're stuck. They're stuck on. But basically, the idea is that you will add to the wind grid, which basically the cheapest generators get dispatched first. And because wind turbines are just sitting there idle on the sidelines, they're the first ones to get revived when a little bit of new energy or demand shows up at 2 in the morning. So this is going to cover not just the ERCOT grid, but also the grid north of us, the Southwest Power Pool. They also have incredible surpluses of wind in the middle of the night, very much the same weather dynamic. I've got the API complete. My checkboxes didn't come through for some reason. The first 2 of these are complete. Web app is working just fine. The iOS app, I'm looking for some beta testers. So maybe if you're interested in trying this out, we'll talk later. Eventually, I'd like to work with electric power providers or even the utilities like Austin Energy, because if people are working hard to take charges only 2 or 3 times a week and they're reviving wind turbines, this energy was so plentiful, they couldn't even give it away. And so they're actually selling it at negative prices with the subsidies that had come in from the federal government. So this is going to help the retail electric providers. They need to give a discount to people who are getting on board and just charging at the right time to revive wind turbines. So that's the long-term goal, get some pilots started up with those guys.
So I'm often asked folks talk about, should I get one of these plans that has free nights? And I go, well, you better watch out what the daytime is, but the basis of why they can offer free nights, like you say, from 0 or even negative power prices to them.
And that is kind of a blunt weapon if you think about it, because every night is treated identical and they're not necessarily any idled wind turbines on all those nights. It's when the wind turbines are idled that you can actually make a big difference in terms of, I'll be honest, even on those slow nights, they're going to have some of the most efficient natural gas generators running and maybe running a little bit stronger. So you don't want to revive a dormant gas generator.
Okay, so this is where your software comes in versus those power plans that just give you blanket free nights. This is doing it the smart way.
Yes, the hope is there's literally about 2 gigawatts if you include all the states north of us and part of the mid-continent ISO. 2 gigawatts. That's roughly the equivalent of 2 nuclear power plants wasted on average. So adding it up over a year, that's an enormous amount of power. Completely, well, not completely. There's a little bit of carbon in the supply chain for building wind turbines, but it's extraordinarily low carbon.
And another limitation is just the transmission, or I should say, lack of sufficient transmission lines to get that excess wind to other urban centers across the country.
That can be an issue, but normally there's congestion on the grid only during the daytime when you've got the renewables from solar also coming in, and then you have your traffic jams. It's when the demand hits rock bottom, around 2 or 3 in the morning. There's this incredible bowl of very low demand. It only gets to about 40,000 gigawatts megawatts of power generated. Whereas during the daytime, you can expect it to be about 55, 65, throughout the year.
Okay.
It's very seldom that the energy use goes beyond that 40,000 megawatts, except during hurricane or winter storm Uri, which is a whole different category.
No, we want to build things more for the common situation to be efficient but handle those extreme cases, but they can be less efficient. Yeah.
Yeah. The hope is if people show up only in the middle of the night on those really strong nights, one, they're not showing up at 6 in the evening when the ovens are running, and also that they revive some wind turbines. Next slide, if you don't mind. So this is my team, really advisors. I'm the inventor of this thing. I write a little bit of code, but I have to farm some of that work out to build their AI. Fareed Zain, he himself is a founder of a company that does the universal toll tags that make it possible for you to take your car to many different states and pay your tolls. And Eric Fishout has deep industry roots in the energy business. He's helping guide me to meet up with a pilot plant arrangements with the retail electric providers. Next slide. And so, this brings me to what I need for some EV drivers. Doesn't just have to be here in Texas. Across the Great Plains is where all this wind surplus happens. If you know any friends in, say, Michigan or as far north as Minnesota, Wisconsin, they too, they're served by a slightly different report. It's the same format, but they're a bit isolated off the Texas grid, so they have their own situation and different weather. And that's it.
Great, Robert. That makes so much sense because we hear about where the wind turbines have been put up, which is in obviously windy areas, but they don't match the human demand curve.
and no one knows about it. We don't have weather vanes or on the television news. Nobody bothers to say, up in the Panhandle, we're going to have a couple 10,000 extra megawatt hours. And most people, I mean, you're a pretty smart crowd, but it's hard to know. Is 10 megawatt hours a surplus a lot, or is that a little? Are we doing well with that, or are we far behind? I like to think of it as the mega what?
Okay.
So just thinking of other technologies, just to see how you've looked at things, I've heard some people suggest that to avoid curtailing wind power to electrolyze water and then store some hydrogen, maybe just locally, and then when there is more demand, convert that hydrogen back into electricity again.
I did talk to a guy that it was in the process of building out some fueling stations of hydrogen, and the way he described it, the electrolysis, I gotta say it correctly, electrolysis process is very inefficient. You maybe get about 60% of the energy back, which is why the big stationary batteries like that one football field, you'll be 80% efficient, far better than 60, but it's far worse than getting it direct from the wind turbine.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Am I muted? I don't know. I can't see here. You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Got a question?
I'll give you a ratchet up of the real world to do that. Okay, he's right. They call it curtailment of how much wind energy you have to drop is the correct terminology there. Does hydrogen, like you just talked about, the way that's going to work on these super big offshore fields, because they'll generate the power that they need to run the field from hydrogen themselves, so they don't have to worry that. So when they can make power, they can sell 100% of the power out and use the hydrogen through fuel cells to run their operations with, instead of having to bring oil and everything out. The real world here, and this gets to the biggest problem now across the whole industry, is the fact that the net metering rule change has screwed everybody over across the country, especially in Houston, where the major cost is with CenterPoint. A great example of that is obviously I have solar through Sunrun on my house, Doesn't cost, but I pay $58 a month. They own it, and I get the power out of it. And the extra power that it generates that I sell back to the utility, okay, I could make money, but for February, I just got my bill, okay, and my energy content that I sold back to the grid on there was 0.7 cents per kilowatt hour, okay, is what I get back. Okay, now
Which
where the way to
nothing.
outsmart that and how you solve that problem is do what I did. You buy an EV, right? My solar, I know how it's oriented where it is. Okay, on my house, I know my peak generation is from 11 to 3. So basically, I just set the car last night to charge, leave it plugged in from 11 to 3, run the battery down, and when the sun comes out, I get free power. Because the last thing I want, why would I want to sell at 0.7, sell it back at 0.7 and pay 13.6 to do it in? That math don't work. The one thing that needs to work, and maybe I'll give you a little homework to do here if you got some things to ERCOT. The way it works right now is it's based on 15-minute interval pricing for a real world average across the whole thing. The only one out there that's actually got the right model that works right now is Tesla with their power walls. And we've had guys talk to that, which is true. They pay you real time pricing down to every second to what it works out. And I think it's 80, you get 80, they get 20, and you put power walls in, right? And they pay you. You could, man, on a good day, you might make $200 if you get lucky. That some guys got $5.70 a kilowatt hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking at Jim Thompson here right in the room because he's
Yeah, what we need and what I've been pushing ERCOT to do to make this work through systems like you have, which is the intelligent AI engine to work with this. We need ERCOT, if we're going to manage the power to help them, okay, we need to know what the hell the pricing, real-time pricing is, not 15-minute sliding intervals looking through an ERCOT chart, because now I've generated extra power. I'm going to sell it back and help the grid, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give it away, to pay it. I'm not going to sell. That's like people to sell it out of your car on V to G, right? Yeah, you really want to step in a thing, sell V to G back, and that happens to you. That you only want to sell it back when you know what that number is. The problem is we can't get that number in real time. If we can get that number, and your AI thing works with wind, the solar, they need power and the grid's tough. Well, it overrides your charger. I'll sell it back because here's my threshold of pricing, and I'll charge it tonight on wind, which is right. So how we make that work?
You're doing what in California their big batteries do, which is they have surpluses of solar in the middle of the day. My app isn't going to help you much there. All you have to do is go outside and look out the window. Is the sun shining? That's going to be a surplus of your solar energy if you're there in San Francisco. So you're doing exactly what the big batteries do in California. You're getting your car on the grid and you're just taking that extra stuff before it leaves your house.
Right. I'm not going to sell it. I own the energy. Okay. I'm not, there's a number that I'll sell it back at to do that. And the way you do that with a car, it's not smart enough to do it, but you figure out where the block is and you just let your car charge between 11 and 3 every day. Sun comes out, not whatever to do it. Right. It's pretty simple to do it at a time, but you can't go back and say, hey, I'd like to do it if it's a sunny day. Well, if then it goes negative in there, give me another option to charge it and look at the wind. Give me the real thing. If you're going to sell me power negative because you want me to take it, which is an incentive, like you said, to work, it goes negative. If they'll give me power and pay me to take it, I'd be glad to do it. But what we need to do is have the multiple charge ability to do that, which isn't a problem, but we need access to real-time pricing to help them fix their damn problem. Do you know much about the one with that? Obviously, I've got some guys working Energy, which partners up next to us out of Louisiana. That's a different grid, right? It's not tied into the ERCOT.
It's the Midwest. It's a mid-continent ISO.
Right. And there's some tie-in problems with that. And they're a regulated utility. They're not a deregulated like we are. We've got a great example to see that. One of the guys that's doing that, Gullo Ford up in Conroe, is put in a whole bunch of DC fast charging stations and other stuff. And they're on the ERCOT side of the system to do that. And I know it's been a while since a meeting of how ERCOT wants to incentivize that people to use the EV space on their grid to do that. It's different because they can do things that we can't do in the Texas market, right, with ERCOT because we're deregulated. That's an interesting thing. And these guys are trying to figure out how do I got a bunch of chargers tied to the grid. Okay, how can I, like you said, the people that want to park their car there because they're not used and they only charge when it makes sense, which is where you can take the wind's going to blow at night. And Enterprise is there. They leave their cars charged in to plug it. And when the wind blows at night, that's when they charge. And when the demand's high, they don't charge. But you need to make the charger be able to talk to the data through AI model to make it work. You can solve that one, you'll be a rich man. Okay. I'll let you go with that.
I can break out the pricing if I wanted to. There's that model was used by Griddy and got them into some deep hot water at one point and basically made them shut down. In fact, Texas now prohibits sale of electricity on the spot market. The wholesale price is not accessible to residential users. It's commercial people that maybe can do that. Yeah, that created, well, all kinds of, I'm sure people saw the newspapers and the TV.
Right,
reports
yeah, that was an extraordinary situation, and like you say, then the folks that have the power, the legislature decided that we're not going to allow companies to do what Griddy tried to do to get things to be efficient for people so that they could, just pay just a little bit over what was actually happening on the grid. Because most of us, I mean, still, when I talk to people, they think, oh, electricity, it's flat rate. It costs the same all the time. It's available at the same amount all the time. That's your typical resident. And so we need to teach people that, and of course, Jim here, I don't know if you've met Jim at a previous meeting. He's
maybe,
been
yeah.
following the Tesla pricing and so forth, because he's trying that out at his house with his
Ah,
car.
all right.
And
Interesting.
so, yeah, because I know I've seen both of you guys, but I don't know if you've both been at the same meeting at the same time to interact. So
All right.
you guys
We'll
want to,
we'll have to talk later.
yes, you definitely want to, because maybe Jim wants to take you up on doing the beta. And
To pay electric bill in 9 months.
But
Shoot
Jim-
for a year.
Jim just said he hasn't paid an electric bill in 9 months and he's shooting for a year.
Now, do you have solar on your roof?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's got
There
the
you go.
solar and the car and the batteries.
all right.
That's the critical part. Yeah. Yeah. Some of us just have a little bit of solar, but no batteries. And so we can't.
Well, I need to find out about,
What's that?
especially the backup power supply, because when the hurricanes come, I just want to be able to like make it through a week without power.
Well, Jim can tell you what the
from the grid.
software options it gives you. Yes, exactly. Because yeah, we all know that the storms come and there'll be another Uri type event and so forth coming up. So, all right, Robert, thanks so much. 'cause
Thank
we
you,
want-
Colin, for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, all righty. That's fine. So, yeah, because we want to cover, Jim, you had mentioned about what BP is doing, and Colin is going to talk to us about some of the Electrify Expo in Austin that there was. And Mr. Counterman, did you want to say something too?
Was actually see if you could get the other gentleman didn't hear his name.
Colin here?
On the race car guy, Keith. Keith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Keith Howard's online, yeah.
Yeah, if you mind telling his name and how to get in contact with him.
Okay, so Keith, well, first of all, contact, you can always do that through the club's email
Okay.
to start with. But Keith can also tell you, are you there?
Yeah,
Keith?
here, I'll give you, I'm a real easy guy to do it. I'll give you my phone number and you text me is the best way, right? I'll share it. Am I unmuted?
You're-
281-413-1429 and text me. Because I will not answer the phone if I don't recognize the number. Text it or leave me a message. I prefer a text with your contact and share it. If you have to email me to my phone to do that, I'll give you that one, but don't give it out. That email is hcs.keith@gmail.com.
Mhm.
I
Okay,
go straight to my phone and I see it and I can answer and we can get things together and schedule a meeting to catch up. Or it may be when we get a slow one and people want to do one off thing and this guy cleans the mess up so I can park some cars there that we'll get together. We can
yeah.
another date. A bunch of guys want to show up on a Saturday and kind of see what's going on. We can do something like that. We'll have a work day.
All
I
right.
can put people to work moving things around. So I'd appreciate any help I can get. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think I've got some, let's see if this will open up or not. John's photos here. Oh, come on now. All right. That's,
So you
I
spotlighting something.
yeah, I might need to change from the spotlight. Remove spotlight and share my screen here. Okay, John, you want to come on up and yeah. So,
Here's your mic.
yeah. All right.
Did they get to see my beautiful face?
Well, you're.
Hello. Hi. I'm John Atwood, and been a member here for probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And I like to do car conversions. So this is an electric vehicle club, and we do car conversions, or we used to. Well, I still do them. That's me. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
the
you.
boss is coming
That's
in.
what I bring to the table here. So I did a 72 Datsun 510 wagon, and that actually has a Zilla controller. So I think it's still going to be good, but yeah, I didn't know Cafe Electric had stopped facilitating the Zillas.
So we've got to baby your Zilla controller now. Yeah.
Right, man. Time is going, technology is changing. Which brings me to my latest conversion, and that's probably why people are switching over, is because my next conversion, I'm using OEM components, and Tesla has the best components. So that's what I'm using. Before I get into that though, this picture right here is my house. I moved, and I just had this electrical connection installed. I've never had solar before, but as an EV enthusiast, I've wanted to have it. And so I actually have a question for the group, because I couldn't really understand my electrician, and I want to make sure what I paid for is actually going to work for me, so I know if I'm going to be mad at him or not. So what this is I had them run a new line from the transformer. So you can see that there's two conduits coming into the meter panel. So this meter panel is a 320 amp box.
Just
So-
like a lot of houses, but
Right. This house had a 150 amp panel on it. And I told the electrician, hey, give me as much power as the center point will give me. And so he gave me a 320 box with two lines coming in.
okay.
So I have two 300 amp lines coming in, and they split. One goes to the right to this panel right here, which is a 150 amp panel with 40 spaces. And then the other one goes into a transfer switch, which goes over to the main panel for the house, which is inside the garage. So this is actually the back of the garage. And so that, the electrician told me that because it's longer than 25 feet, it had to have a disconnect, emergency disconnect. So anyway, so that 150 amp panel that's on the back there is empty. There's nothing in it. And the whole point of it is so I can, put car chargers, I can put plugs for my welder, I can expand to solar, because all those things take 220 breakers. And so you have to have two legs, so they take a double spot. So you can fill up a panel real quick just with a bunch of stuff. So my house panel is full. And if I want it to not be full, I have to convert to the double breakers where they use one breaker, but it has two connections or two switches on it. So anyway, the question here is those panels are connected because this meter socket obviously has 4 lines coming in, and then it has 4 coming out. So the ones coming out are they're technically connected because it's like a double lug. I don't know if y'all are familiar with these meter sockets, but it's like you have like 2 connections, right, on a meter socket. You have the line coming in, and then you have the meter, and then you have the lines coming out to your panel. Well, when you have something like this is a double meter socket where you have 2 lines coming in, and then you have 2 lines going out.
Okay.
But so the lug where they're going out is just like one piece of aluminum, I guess, where both are connected.
Okay.
So they feed both panels. But if I added solar to this empty panel, I would want it to run everything. I would want it to be able to provide electricity for the breakers for the EV chargers that are in that panel. I would also want it to be able to provide power to my house. So obviously that power would flow through that lug that both panels are connected to at the meter socket. So I don't know if that's like code or you can do that or if it's normal. I don't know. I tried to ask my electrician that and he didn't understand what I said.
You don't understand. You want the short version of that, Robert? The one thing on that panel per code, it's just you have that's just a disconnect switch. It's not a breaker on there. It's just a disconnect on the left hand side of the meter. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Just-
Well, there is a
okay.
breaker in there. I mean, it says 100.
Is a break, well, you need to have protection in there on that circuit, but if it's not a disconnect, and that's not a breaker that's rated to protect that panel, like a main lug only. If it's just a disconnect, it needs to be a protective device. If it's a disconnect only, you need to have a main breaker in that panel to protect the bus and the panel from a fault. Okay.
There is a breaker in that disconnect and has a 150 on it. And then
Okay.
the panel that it feeds is a lug only panel. So there's no main breaker in that panel.
It's an MLO. As long as that's a breaker, not a switch, you're fine. That's okay. Because it's on the same bus to protect it.
Right.
You're fine to do that. But what you have, if you have solar on there, there's two ways to do that. One, you got to have an emergency disconnect on your DC bus per code because it's solar, so they can isolate the solar on that coming in. The other one being of that is your best bet to do it, and I would say if you go that way with the solar, is do it with the end. I do it with the end phase with the combiner box and do it with a low voltage wiring. It's a lot cleaner install to do that with the inverters because they take care of all the system. You can look at mine how Sunrun does it. That's the way I would do it. And then you basically just have a 2-pole 50 amp breaker in your panel, and that's your solar tie-in, right? With a DC disconnect on that, and then you don't have an inverter on the side of your house. You just have a combiner box that you can isolate the circuits on that. It's the cleanest and most efficient way to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Where'd you move to? Where are you at now? Where you at?
I'm in Sugarland.
Okay. Well, if you want to come up and look at the shop one day when I'm back after, where are you working? You still working on the north side, or where did they move you to, or where are you working at? So
I work in downtown.
Downtown. Okay. Well, figure if I'm around on a Friday or an evening or something, you get off work, come up that way, and I'll show you the side of my house and I'll show you the warehouse and the way it's the most efficient way to do it because you're not running all the cables. Your cables are very small coming. I mean, all your cables coming from the panel fit in 1 3/4 inch conduit then from the roof because the inverter is built into the back of the end face, the good stuff. It's the cheapest way to do it. It's the most efficient.
Yeah, like
you can get cheap and nickel and diamond, but that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would love that, Keith. That would be awesome.
Get Keith Maryland back down here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I will have my part of this is I will keep my 2 businesses in Texas to the end of the year. I'm already there. And we'll see what, at least I get to make a decision, at least on this side of the election, you know what you got before they're inaugurated. So you're on the other side and you can make some intelligent decisions, right? You don't have to do a BWAG, which we call the best wild ass guess and hope you get it right. But we don't need another repeat of what we had last time anyway. But yeah, I'll show you how to do it. That way you can run all your other, that's clean because then you can run all your other loads off of that. The other thing you need to look at when you do that is that when most people have solar on their house, they're all going to be grid tied inverters. Okay. So if you lose utility, your solar is not going to run your house. Okay. You can go the other way. If you want to run it and do it there, what you do, the best one, oh God, what is it? I'm going to forget. It's a solar arc. If you want to go that way where you want to take panels and batteries and do everything and learn it and do it the right way, where you want your house to be able to run when you lose utility power and you want everything to work pretty seamlessly, solar arc is the best option out there because you can take it's 48 volt on the battery voltage. So you can use lead acid lithium. It's agnostic. It doesn't care. It is the best inverter and they have a very good training program behind it. And that's the route I would go if you want to have your house. The other one is you can do it cheap. You just have to manually isolate it. You have to have a small inverter to make sure that the system thinks to a battery that the AC is on. You trick it with a small battery. So the battery is your grid, right? But you still have to isolate it. if you don't, Bill and Kevin Douglas learned how things burn up if you don't forget to turn things off before you do that. But anyway, I'll help you out with that. That's fun. That's what I do. Just you help me on a class, just ask me and I'll show you how to do it. All right.
Yeah, it'd be great, Keith. I actually get off at noon on Fridays, so any Friday.
That'll
I'll-
work, man. Maybe next Friday. Yeah, next Friday, mate. I get back in town on Tuesday. My schedule's going to be around there. Just Jeff, you want to that or over the weekend or something, or come up and we'll look at that and we grab something and sit up there and hang out for a while and show you some stuff. All right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Hey, so John, you want to-
Yeah. So yeah, now we can talk about my next project, and I'll also have a question for you, Keith, at the end. So this is my current project. Hey, look, there's my dad over there. Cool. There he is. He's in the room. Twins.
One on the screen, one on the room. Yeah.
So I wanted to do a larger vehicle, a more practical vehicle. This is my truck, and I bought it specifically to do this. This is a mid-size truck. It's a Nissan Frontier. And of course, Rivian has already come out now. I'm still working on this vehicle. Rivian's about the same size as this. You can go to the next slide. We can start to look at some of my progress here that I've been working on. So this is a Tesla Model X, actually front motor. And so this is mounted in the front of this truck. And I have custom axles interfacing the original four-wheel drive hubs. Let's go to the next picture. How am I going to power it? Well, I bought a battery finally. I've actually had this battery for probably 8 months, and it's taken forever to work on it. This is a lot of work. This is like more than 1,000 pounds, like 1,200 pounds. This is out of a Tesla Model 3. And it's hard, right? You look at these modules and they are 6 feet long. And it's like, what do you do with a 6 foot by 12-inch module? I think they're like 3-4 inches tall. So where do you put that? And this is the problem with conversions right now is there's, not a lot of batteries that are going to fit a form factor that works for you. This battery, the one that's in the 3 and the Y, this is really some of your top battery technology in the world right now. There haven't been as many battery fires on the 3 and the Y, if not none, compared to what was going on with the S and the X. They really seem to get it down with this battery. It has the fire retardant material. You can kind of see it in the middle there. It's like a very light bluish color in there. That's all fire retardant material. I think that's part of the big reason why the 3 and the Y have had better success. Anyway, so people that are using this are putting them in relatively big vehicles because they're 6 foot long. So, you put it under the floor of a van, something like that. So, that's kind of what I'm doing here is this is after painstakingly getting the cover off, and you can see that there was the glue all the way around it. It cramped my bicep really bad because I had to use a putty knife and jam it in there all the way around. And it took me like 2 days of a lot of bicep work. So no curls for that day. And it was just one arm. Yeah, I had to alternate arms. So anyway, look at the next picture. So this next picture is after months of work. You can see I took the outer modules out and I stacked them on top of the inner modules. I am not the first person to do this. There's a person called Super Fast Matt who has done this. He has a YouTube channel. And I had this idea first. I just want to put that on the record. But he executed it first and he documented it on YouTube. He has I forget what the kind of car it is, but it's a Jaguar, real old car, like a 70s model, real swoopy fenders. This is an awesome car. And he did a full Model 3 drivetrain, single rear motor. So he put a Model 3 rear motor in it and he put a Model 3 battery in it. And he did this configuration where he put the outer 2 modules on top of the inner 2 modules. And he was able to remove the body of the car off the frame. It's an old school car. And then he set the battery down in the frame. and then kind of created a skateboard out of it. So that was pretty good. So when I saw him do that, I said, that's it. It's been done. Now I'm not going to set myself on fire. So I was pretty happy about that. And so you can see I've done some bracing here. There's a channel that goes through the middle of the battery. And that is actually bolted into the frame of the Model 3 and Y. So something that's different about this battery is it's bolted around the perimeter to the chassis of the car, but it's also bolted in the middle of the car. So for you to remove a battery from a 3 or a Y, you have to remove the seats and the carpet. And then you have to take all the bolts out in the middle that are from the inside of the car bolted down into the battery. So this battery was never designed to hot swap like they did with the S and the X. And I think the S and the X do not do that. They do not have bolts that come from the inside cabin into the car. This is a 3 and a Y thing. So anyway, I needed to support the battery from the middle, and that's what that giant bar is in the middle. It's a support, and it's being supported on the front and the back. That's why the bar extends past the battery. And I have room in this truck to be able to do that. And you got some water connections there, the blue hoses. A fun fact is that just regular coolant pipe, like black coolant pipe, is actually electrically conductive.
Want that?
Yeah. So that's why Tesla uses plastic for all of their coolant connections because of that problem. And so this is silicone hose, and silicone hose is not conductive, but the black hose is. YouTube. Yep. Another question? Yes. They do. I mean, you can buy the part from Tesla, or you can buy it on eBay, if they break.
So it may not be the piece, but the labor, would you say that it's difficult? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rich Rebuilds is another YouTuber, and he's going through some of the common problems of the Teslas. He has a shop called Electrified Garage that actually is a third-party shop that fixes Teslas of all years. And he's probably the most prominent Tesla fixer person. And yeah, it could be. I mean, I have personally taken all these connections off this battery, and they are really hard to get off because they have two separate sides that are clicking into this aluminum connection with a seal. And to pop that off, I mean, yeah, it's hard not to break it when you're taking it off. And it is really on there. So I would be really surprised if it just broke. Like if you're just driving the car and these connections like broke. I mean, that would be very rare. But if you're trying to take it off, yeah, you're going to break it. I mean, there's a high chance you're going to break it unless you're very careful. I took off like 8, I guess, because there's 4 modules and there's 4 on each side. 4 going in, and then 4 going out. So I had to take off 8. I broke, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 out of 8, but they still seal. I mean, I just kind of broke them a little bit. I can still put it back in and it's fine. But EV West, I just found out after I bought like a collection of hoses off eBay from a Erect Model 3 that had all these connections that were not broken. I found out that EV West actually will sell just the barb with an end for a hose that you can connect it to your own hose with a clamp. And it's pretty cheap. EV West is a conversion shop out of California. They're in San Diego. And they're probably the most well-known conversion shop in the United States. And they sell a lot of parts. I buy parts from them. And,
If they're considered enough to not only do the work, but sell parts in small numbers, that must be a lot of work for them to sell you a small part, but
it is considerate.
yeah.
I thank you for saying that, Dave, because I buy all my contactors from them.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, I don't know where I'd buy them from.
Yeah. So it's good that they're promoting. Yeah.
Yeah, I promote EV West. I like them. They're great.
Yeah.
Another question.
You said since you do the EV conversions, are you the local EV converting guy or shop, more or less?
No, I have a real job.
Who, is there somebody in Houston that does this as their job?
Well, we used to have a member, Adam Clark, but he found that you can't make a living doing it. And he moved into commercial air conditioning, which you can make a
Hmm.
living doing that. in
So
Houston.
there isn't.
Not that I know of. As John said, out in California,
Yeah.
these folks out there, they, from what I've seen, they do these high-end conversions where somebody's got a classic car and they want it to run cleanly, and they've got money to pay the folks out there to. Yeah, I was gonna say, you want,
Yeah.
because, yeah, we're asked all the time about, but
Right.
You want the real answer for that? Is if you really want to do that, the best solution right now is just buy a used one because it's a whole lot cheaper than trying to build one yourself. If you want to build one yourself, you better be building one that's race specific or a very unique vehicle. It's not, trust me, it's not worth. That's what killed that whole industry is when Tesla and everybody came out, because everybody that had to build these things figured out it was a whole lot cheaper how to do it. Even ask Bill Swann, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's a lot more reliable than trying to fix everything else, right, Bill?
yeah, Bill had to head out. He's not in the room anymore, but
Okay.
one of the two Counterman
Yeah.
brothers is here, and we want to get them up here in front and a future meeting
yeah,
as
yeah.
well, talking about the Audis and
It's Keith, right? Yeah, my
online. That's Keith
Yes,
talking.
sir.
Yeah.
My brother's an Audi technician, and so I get a lot of inside information about the e-tron and how they're
Yeah.
doing EVs. So I'm just always curious and
The,
see what an inside of a Tesla looks like. So
Yeah.
the more
there's a,
learn from that, yeah.
I can tell you the future. The one if they would do it and make it work, if you wanted to do something, if you could get your hands on a Rec Lucid for the parts at 900-volt architecture, that's what you want. Okay, they're very far and few between because they don't do them. But if you're going to do anything, do not even bother wasting your time in school at 400 volts. I mean, 600 volts to start, up to 900 volts like Lucid is. I think Porsche's at like 800 volts now.
Audi's
800. Don't if you want to build something cool in Audi, don't even mess with the 400 volt stuff. They take 3 motors and do cool stuff and it hits hard, but it's not. If you've ever get a chance to drive a Lucid and understand what voltage and speed torque curve is like, I've driven fast cars. Every electric car is fast 0 to 60. You want to go fast, you do what we do with DC, right? Okay, because we get 100% torque at 0 speed. We just have to figure out how to make it stick at low speed. We can't get high speed, but drive that Lucid, the first Lucid Dream Edition high-end thing. I've never been in a car that from 60 to 100 probably has a 1 second time. It will throw you back harder in the seat because it's a mass in motion, and it will do. I've never been in a car that's accelerated that hard from 60 to 100, and I kind of went beyond that to about 140, and then kind of decided it was time to lift.
So Keith, isn't the Cybertruck also like a higher voltage, 800?
No,
volt?
they're all 400 volts. All Tesla's 400 volt architecture.
Well, I thought with the Cybertruck they went up.
I think
It's the same motors. Even the trucks are the same.
Oh, okay. So the
The
what
big
Cybertruck
trucks are
increased the
400 volts.
voltage on was the low voltage system.
Yeah.
It went from
48. They went to 48 volt
That's
architecture
what
on the voltage system. Everybody's going to go that way, but their drive propulsion is 400 volts, and it's even the same way. It uses the plaid motors, carbon wrap motors, are the motors that they use on the big 18-wheeler or whatever they call that thing. Their Tesla truck is still 400 volts because they tried, which really isn't. I mean, it's all heat. It's bigger wires. It's bigger cable. Higher voltage, less current, less wire, less heat.
Yep.
To do that.
Okay, let's let John go through the rest of his photos, and then we can get to Colin talking about the. Well, we'll see how the time goes, and Jim also talking about BP. But yeah, all right. So the next photo. John?
yeah. If I wasn't crazy, I wouldn't do a conversion, because it is a ton of work. I would just buy a Rivian. Actually, they're a lot of work. I mean, I've worked. I'll work every weekend on this,
You have a very understanding wife, so yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't have any kids. So this is up underneath the truck. You can kind of see, it's not a great picture. You go to the next picture.
Oops. Let's see.
No, this is under the truck in between the frame rails.
Okay, there we go.
So here you can see the frame rail, and you can see the frame rail is like 7-8 inches tall, and the battery is about that same height. So I did space it down a little bit. I spaced it down an inch, but it fits, you know, and I've actually got some decent space to the sides. So it fit pretty good. You look at the next one. I'm just showing off here how I make my high voltage connections. That's a 4.0 wire, double insulated wire with a hydraulic crimper. Pretty fun.
Wow. Yeah, fancy crimper.
Right. And then, you know, when I saw Bill's purple truck that he talked about, and I saw the back end lift, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that for sure. So I'm trying to get it to where I can lift up. So that's my next question actually, is I'm planning to put a motor in the rear. And I'm probably gonna stick with a Model S drivetrain. So I'm probably gonna put a Model S big motor in the rear. And for this truck, what I think makes sense is doing the D-Dion axle, the D-Dion axle, where I'm reusing, you know, it's reusing the whole drive unit as one. And you know, it still has the independent axles, but it's not a live axle, it's a dead axle. If you're familiar with suspension geometry. So I don't know exactly how to build that. Suspension geometry has always kind of been something that I wasn't that comfortable with. So I am trying to figure out exactly how I want to mount this motor and build that axle. So I don't know, Keith, that's something I'll ask you, you know, when we talk, is if you have any recommendations of, you know, like an old school race car builder that knows how to help.
I got a guy. There's a guy 2 miles from my place that does doing that builds spec Miatas and understands all that stuff. That's a brilliant guy, so he can give you some guidance on how to do it. So not a problem.
Keith can introduce John to him too. All
Yeah,
right.
I know he mentioned in the shop area that he had some people like that. So that's kind of
You know, that guy. This is a guy that's built. This guy is amazing. If you have to have a really cool vehicle worked on to do that, he's developed. If you need a fuel injection system on an old carbureted from a Jaguar or whatever, he's the best in the world. So he's good. And I jab him with electric stuff. We have fun. So
cool. Well, maybe he can dabble in some fun. So yeah, so that's the update on my project.
Then this looks like
That's Bill's picture.
Bill's picture. Yeah. Okay. So that's it.
Can you go back to the Model S motor, please?
Yeah, the motor in the front.
Like this one.
That
Yes,
one.
sir. Cool. What's that, the size of a watermelon?
No, it's larger. In between the frame rails is almost like 2 feet, something like that, 24 inches, maybe a little more. And so this motor is taking up pretty much all of that space. It just barely fits. So it's kind of lucky. You can see on the left is actually the motor itself. In the middle is the gearbox and the reduction. And then on the right, that more shiny piece of aluminum is the inverter. So it is a very tight, small package for peak 300 horsepower that's able to get out of this motor.
Where's the output shaft?
It is that lump on the bottom, where there's like an intermediate axle. No, that's the power steering rack. If you go up a little bit, right there, yeah. So if you go to the right, the aluminum part, that right there, that's where the output shafts are, and there's one on each side. This is an independent suspension. Yeah, so so the intermediate shaft is there on the left, and there's an axle connected to it, and then on the right there's an axle connected underneath that mount.
And is that differential or just that's differential?
Yeah, there's a differential in there as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's a complete drive unit package, and it's one of the smallest. Rivians are smaller. The Rivian's good, actually. Rivian's pretty good.
White space for crumple.
Yeah, I don't want that to ever happen. After all this work, definitely don't want that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot more space in this engine bay than there was before, this motor bay. Yeah. Oh, and I also I put a an eye booster from a Tesla for the power braking. So it's not going to be vacuum. It's an eye booster, which is what the Teslas use. And a lot of like Honda's using them now. A lot of people are using the Bosch eye booster. So that's for my braking. And then for my steering, I'm using an electric steering rack. So I have a motor that's actually connected to the steering rack. Oh yeah. There's nothing to show on this picture, but I'm just talking about it. So I was able to do electric power steering and electric braking. I'm pretty happy about that.
So
I
the
didn't-
electric power steering is an independent unit?
Yeah, I forget. I think it's out of like a Honda CRV or maybe it's a Saturn. I think it's the Saturn View actually. Oh,
Saturn View,
thanks
okay.
for remembering that. Yeah, it's you know, when they first started doing electric assist power steering,
Yeah.
they were putting the motor in the column in the cab or in the cab of the vehicle. And then they've kind of migrated to putting the motors down on the racks. And so I wanted to kind of keep this truck factory as much as I could. And so I intercepted the shaft, the steering shaft, and put the motor there. So I basically adapted this Saturn View steering column to the Frontier steering column.
Okay.
And actually had to get someone laid it down, one of my dad's friends, so that's why he remembers. Another question.
Yeah. So the eye booster, so technically it's, they call it, I don't know what Tesla calls it, but is it brake by wire, but it's still actually hydraulic? Like,
Yeah, no, I think the Cybertruck is the only thing that's doing, are they doing brake by wire? Probably. Actually, I'm not sure, but the eye booster, no, it's hydraulic.
if the electricity goes out, you still can stop?
Yeah, it's still all mechanical. It has everything a normal braking system has.
Similar to like how a regular car works with the vacuum booster.
Right. It's like if you didn't have vacuum, if you didn't have assist, then you just have to push really hard. And then of course the eye booster doesn't have to have pedal input. It has a CAN bus system and computer on it.
So we do
Where-
emergency braking and such?
Well, I mean, Tesla has autopilot, you know, and full self-driving. So the iBooster is doing all that stuff because the computer's telling it to brake, when to brake, and how much to brake. So it doesn't even need user input to do its function.
And for traction control.
Traction control, I'm not actually sure where. I think the traction control is in the inverters. I think it's a part of the motor control.
I mean, like, when you have a differential, you can sometimes apply braking to get power balance between the two, you know.
Yeah, I think Tesla's doing it with computer by just cutting power, I think is how they do it. And so obviously they don't have independent control of the two wheels. They have control of one inverter or another, or one set of wheels or another.
Yeah.
Right. Cybertruck, I'm not sure either. I mean, Cybertruck has the 4-wheel steering, so they might have more control on it. But I'm just thinking of the aftermarket solutions of the Tesla motor control, because those still have a level of traction control. And so you're taking the Tesla motors out of the Tesla and putting them in another car, and they still have traction control. So that's why I think it's all software related to the inverter.
Okay. Cool.
And like speed input. That's what I've read anyway.
All right, John, great. So I'm glad that we've connected you and Robert and one of the, is it Steve or Mark? Carnival?
I'm Mark. my brother
Mark,
Steven.
okay. I knew you and your brother were here, but Sorry, Mark, I couldn't remember
Awesome.
which name with which of your
Very cool,
brothers.
man.
Thank you.
And Keith online and stuff. And so, yeah, when Keith comes in town, he's got lots of folks to talk to here now.
Oh yeah, Keith is great. He's a wealth of knowledge
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Thanks so much, John. Yeah.
If you hold it, I can do it.
Well, I was going
Yeah.
to have
Do that.
Jim talk about his 2 photos.
Uh,
Let me stop sharing with this and call up because BP is doing some things, and so the charging side of vehicles. So let me call up, let's see.
We haven't.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can get the. Oh, come on now. Yeah, here we go.
It's
Get my,
go there.
let's get. So from going from the vehicle side of things to the charging side. So let's see if we can get this to open up here and I can share it. So Jim has been very watchful, seeing what's going on, and us in the club here, we've also heard some things from one of the BP reps about an event coming up in the future, but let us know what you found, Jim.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jim Thompson, and I am a regular attendee here for several years. I also am connected to BP. I worked for the energy company for about 18 years, and I'm still connected. I go out to their campus 2 or 3 times a week to use the fitness facility. And I noticed on one of the corners of the campus, on the south side service road of I-10 between Highway 6 and Eldridge Parkway, there was a construction site. That's not too exciting. But every few days when I passed it, progressing, and I said, wow, that looks like it's taking the shape of a charging facility. Sure enough, the charging pods went up, and very nicely, the canopies went up over the charging areas. And there is one of the photos I took. You can actually read the name BP Pulse, which is the name of their sub company that's pretty prominent in the UK and is expanding in the US. They don't have any charging facilities in Texas yet, but this one's about to open up. So you can see there's a series of charging pylons there. There are 2 rows, one to the left and one to the right, barely in the picture. And maybe we'll take a look at the next image. Thanks, Dave. All right, taken from a different angle. Nicely, you can notice that there are canopies over this. I know I'm a longtime user, about 9 years of Tesla superchargers, and I've never been to one that has a canopy covering the charging area, which can be a real pain on a heavily rainy day when you have to get out of your car and plug or unplug into the voltage to start or end a charging session. And I'm wondering if maybe they even put photovoltaic panels on top of the canopy. That's just speculation, but we shall see. So I've come to learn that next week there's going to be a ribbon cutting out of this facility. That's when it's supposed to open. And we'll learn more then, such as what power, what the cost of using it is, and we'll get more information like that. So this is just a 2-minute intro. That's all I know. Could you show the next slide, please? And then there's an image of a map capture. There's where it is. That's I-10, the big broad green and purple. And Grisby Road is where there are several restaurants and the BP people go for drinks after work. And to the left is Highway 6 or west, and to the right or east is Eldridge Parkway. So hopefully it helps orient where we are.
So quite far west.
Yeah, it's pretty far west,
Okay.
almost out to Highway 6.
Okay. Great. All right.
You saw it here.
Yeah, I was just gonna
I'll
say,
give you a quick thing to that relationship of what you're seeing is a strategic alliance between BP Pulse and Hertz of how they're going to do it into their rental fleet for EVs and do that. That's their strategic partner. The branding is kind of a little up in the air how they do, but that's their partner that they're working with.
Hurts.
So when you put those two together, Hertz.
Yeah.
It's yeah, that's their strategic. They got their $1 billion partnership to get into the DC fast charging so that they can use their when they have Hertz vehicles and do that in the rental, which is the way they want to go. They're not stuck using other people's stuff. Although I will say, being a Ford, I'm glad that now I can, as soon as I get my adapter, I can charge my Mustang Mach-E on a supercharger station. To do that, all you need is the adapter, and it's built into your Ford app. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is have the adapter. If anybody that has one, it may take you 4 to 6 weeks to get. They crash the website. You plug it in. The only problem on the other one, they haven't figured, like, how, like a Tesla supercharger where they put their charger in the back of the car and they back in, hook it up. When everybody else puts it on the side, they line up within the rows. You take up a 1.5 parking spaces to get to the plug. So a little logistic there. So.
All right. Well, good luck with that. You'll find that Tesla superchargers are very reliable. Uptime.
Oh, it is. It is. There, I can tell you what. I read TDs really well, and actually, the girl that I worked with, it's his daughter, is the executive VP at Hertz that runs all that, and is the one that put the whole deal together to do that. If I'd say in 3 years is when when that gets built out more and they get more and more people using it, it makes sense. You will see Tesla will spin that off and sell that as an asset because it'll be one of the most valuable things they have within I'd say 27 to 36 months, and I'll bet you a beer and we'll call it even. All right.
Okay. Thank you for that. Gentlemen, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
That's a great location.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on an interstate, people going LA to New Orleans and past.
My daughter saw a Ford at a supercharger just last week.
Okay.
So somebody's got the adapter.
Oh, okay. So you saw one actually out there being used.
She said, yeah, she saw one at a supercharger.
And it seems to be working pretty good so far, as my understanding. The only problem is the parking place issues right now. It's an easy fix. All they do is got to offset them and put the parking places on both sides of the charger, and then it solves that problem. You get twice as many cars that can park to wait and get lined up, and when one guy's finished, they can unplug it and put it in the other one. So it gives you a dual-sided charging system instead of where you can't get to the other side.
Yeah, the version 2 and 3 have more of the problem. The 4s, I guess, have longer cables, but I've also read that they're looking at a NACS to NACS extension cord, so like 10 feet to allow you to park normally and yet reach.
Yeah, they're trying to come up with a quick fix to do it because they don't want to lose the density right now while they're doing it. So,
and I guess there was an issue with Rivian because they just did a reveal of their next vehicles, and one comment I read, "It's perfect except for the location of the charger port."
That works really well. Even if you're getting a wireless charging like we do, where do you put the pad in the wireless charging? The front, the rear of the car, a truck. If you got a front and rear motor and you look under a car, where's the real estate under a car? Right? There's no standard spot.
Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at the wireless charging too, because that's something that I bring up at one of the meetings is what if anybody's really knows the status.
Oh, it's out there. It's real. My buddy started plugless power playing 23 years ago with golf carts, and that's when EVA Tran was launched with his daughter. Her name is Rebecca Huff Tiffany now, and when he had to fold the company up because $43 million of your own money into something when there's not the product on the back end, there's a point where you want to pull out to do that. On that, and then she parlayed that into Tesla, and now she's an executive VP in charge of all those supercharging stations for Tesla. So she's a good girl.
Okay. So did we have anything else on our PowerPoint, Colin, that we wanted to show?
Oh, I think you
Did I have a couple more pictures there? Because one thing I wanted to ask if there were folks interested in discussing what Fisker is doing with the Ocean, because of course they came out with a vehicle and it came out kind of slow, and so yeah, I wasn't sure if we had that slide and other slides in that?
It has no information. I
No,
think.
okay.
Yeah,
That was just a
it's
photo.
just a
Okay.
photo. And
Okay.
they could be bankrupt by now.
Well, that's kind of. So Robert Rolnik has followed them in the market and they're not so hot, huh? 50% drop today. Wow.
Yeah. You watch the MKHD? Okay, so one of the
Do you want to grab the mic?
Sure. One of the YouTube tech reviewers, the biggest in the world, his friend lent him his Fisker, and he reviewed it. And then Fisker engineers called his friend and said, you know, all those problems you're having, we want to send out our lead engineer to come fix them. And that guy that posted that thing, you know, they basically handled it really poorly and talked poorly about the some guy on YouTube who happens to have like 8 million followers. And yeah, so that's not great. YouTuber MKHB, I believe. He's a tech reviewer, so they send him all the products and stuff. So some YouTuber didn't like the Fisker, and he said something along the lines of, even if it was free, he wouldn't like it. He wouldn't take it.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, I do have one
Yes.
question. If we have any updates on EV Day?
Referring to the April 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I've got a e-tron and a couple other electric cars, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Let's,
Three things you can participate in. And we've got some sign up sheets over here and you can see them on Facebook too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where all the details are.
Yeah,
Got
I'll get you,
Yeah.
I'll get you info after,
Cool.
after the meeting, yeah.
yeah.
You Go
Yeah.
go
get-
to Facebook or to our webpage.
Yeah, you and your brother, I mean, you can divide and conquer since we've got both the Discovery Green and the IKEA locations on April 20th. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, you can see those over there and
Let me, that's one thing I can do. I can bring up the Drive Electric America website.
okay. Yeah, so for those that hadn't followed, it's been renamed from Drive Electric Earth Day to Drive Electric Earth Month. So we like that.
So if you go to this website, Drive Electric, Earth Day, Earth Month, either one will get you there. And put in your zip code, it'll show you what's going on anywhere in the US. And so we have these three events. This one's coming up next on
April 6th, yeah.
April 6th, and it's the Bayou City Electric School Bus Festival. Bring your kids, decorate a bus. And we hope to be there in force to show people cars and talk electric. And so and you can sign up on this website to be a participant, a volunteer, to just attend. So it's all there so that you can do everything from, oops, that didn't help. You can do everything in, from right here, and you can make it your own event and publicize it pretty quickly. And then the Discovery Green is another one, and IKEA. These two are both on the 20th. So yeah, look at this. We got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
mean,
they're not so close. They're a little bit farther away from Houston, but yeah, there are other things depending on where you're at and even around the country.
Yeah,
You can, if you've got relatives that are in other states or whatever, and they'd like to do something where they're at, then this is a good site to go to. All right, so we will wrap things up. If anyone else has any other questions, I didn't have the chat called up. I don't know if we had anything showing up in the chat. So, Richard-
in your share.
Yes, Richard Andrews saying I volunteered to be an iPhone beta tester for Wind Everest.
I gave
So-
him that. I gave him the info.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I see Robert there at Wind Everest. And Then also in the Heights at the Omni Powertrain, I can't access the info now, but it's on our Facebook too. Yeah, okay. All right. So we will wrap it up. And so I'm not sure whether we will have an April 2nd Thursday meeting, because what we've done other Aprils of other years is because we have these other events, we have not had a regular meeting. It's basically going to depend on, I've been in contact with the general manager of the new Tesla location. And I was hoping actually for tonight that we would have not only a Cybertruck here, but have ride availability. And then that didn't happen. So we will see if that happens in April. So just stay tuned. Of course, we'll send out emails. I think everybody here is on our email list. You know that we only use it for an announcement, basically. You don't get extra stuff. And so, yes, Robert. I don't know if they're going to let you test out that bulletproof stainless steel finish or not. But in terms of capabilities, the one thing that they were showing that it could do is they had a boat on a trailer behind the Cybertruck, and they had 2 charge cords plugged into outlets in the back. So the 120 was charging the boat's battery, and the 240 was charging a nearby car. And so they were showing those capabilities. Yeah. But I don't know about the bulletproof part or not. But like I said, we'll see if that pans out for the 2nd Thursday in April. But definitely April 6th and April 20th, we have these events. So everybody's encouraged to do what you can. And yeah, I love this map that shows places all across the country and into Canada that have events. So lots of good stuff happening. And we didn't even talk about the rest of the world outside North America. We know there's lots of EV stuff happening, a lot of competition, a lot of different things going on. So yeah, exactly. The crowds around our cars and show those dealerships. But I mean, it's been said, more than a century ago that it's hard to convince somebody to believe something when their paycheck depends otherwise. And this is true now as it was 100 years ago. And so we know that, and we don't want to force people, but obviously you enlighten them as to benefits of something, and a good portion of people will want to do that. And of course, there's some people that'll, would rather do something that's to their own detriment than change. But that's just people for you. So, all right, if there's no other questions, things we want to bring up, then we will see everybody later. Thanks a lot.